Jeff, what is your number one most crucial piece of advice for someone who's looking to fund or finance their first short term rental?
Fund or finance their first short-term rental is get a pre-approval. That's my best answer. I talked to literally, a couple of hundred clients a month, and on a consistent basis, people will tell me, "Well, we just don't know what we qualify for," or they'll kind of get to that eventually in so many words. But yeah, it's pretty common that so many of my clients that I've talked to, they're physicians, they're healthcare professionals, they're high income earners. They all kind of have that same reservation or hesitation, just because they don't know where things stand. So yeah, that's my best piece of advice right now is jump into that pre-approval process. So like with North Point, where I originate loans, North Point Bank, we gained the ability to do a soft pull on your credit back in February. So
Oh,
that used to be a
nice.
yeah, that used to be a big hesitation was okay, I want to minimize the amount of times that my credit's going to expire or has to be pulled. I know it expires. So I'm going to wait. and I would tell people all the time, if you're on a phone call with me, that probably means you're out there on Zillow or realtor.com and you are perusing properties. You're probably on some type of search, and you just never know when that property is going to pop up that checks all the boxes that you fall in love with, and then it's, oh, wait a minute. I don't even have a pre-approval in place. I don't know what the payments look like. I don't know what the kind of cash that I'm going to need to be able to pull this off. So, you just never want to be in a situation where you're blindsided or you feel like you're backed into a corner or that you're being reactionary. I think that's where mistakes are made. But yeah, just going through that pre-approval to get that validation of yes, you can do what you're looking to do. Here are the details around that approval. Um, here's your letter. Here's your letter, ready to go when you're ready to make an offer. But the saw pull really has broken through some barriers where you don't have to worry about that hard inquiry, potentially it affecting your score, and then getting 40 phone calls from other lenders because the bureaus are selling your information. So yeah, that's our process right now is we could do that soft pull, but then we also provide instructions on how you can opt out of the bureau selling your information.
Ooh.
Yeah, so when the time comes that you do need that hard pull, which is not until you're under contract, then you've already gone through that process, and it's not a big deal. It takes like 3 minutes to go to this website and opt out. That way, you're not going to get inundated with 40 phone calls, 50 phone calls, once that hard pull is done.
Okay, so this is so good. This is new. This is breaking news, says guys. So a soft pull, I think, is huge and so beneficial. So let me ask you this, Jeff. So, inside of our community, I say there are two pillars of funding your first rental, and you have to have a plan for both in order to move forward. And I'm glad that you jumped in on the pre approval letter. Like that right there is a whole metric on our roadmap. Whether or not you get a pre approval letter indicates to me and my team that you're progressing and you're about to launch in the next 30, 60, or 90 days. So that pre-approval letter is key because what it does is it informs the real estate agents, the realtors, those stakeholders that, oh, this is someone who can actually put in an offer. This is someone who's actually serious. You have no idea how many calls they probably get on a day-to-day basis to those who are window shopping and kind of browsing. And your top contenders, the top real estate agents will not give you the time of day if you don't have a pre-approval letter. So for those of you who are listening right now and you're thinking to yourself, well, I've been working with this realtor and they're not really receptive to me. Well, I don't mean to hurt your feelings. It's maybe because you don't have a pre-approval letter in hand. It's just they don't get paid unless they close on something. So you can kind of understand where that they're coming from. So the two
Yeah,
pillars. Oh, go ahead,
no,
Jeff.
and
You want
I
to come
think
in?
that is a great point. That is a
Hmm.
really great point is, real estate professionals want to be kind, they want to be nice, they want to be responsive.
Yeah,
That's just, how they're going to win business, but how they're going to do business is when they have a client that is set, ready to go, have got a pre-approval.
yeah,
So, you know, a lot of people may think, well, they should show me the same amount of service or same level of service regardless.
yeah,
Well, the ones that you really want to work with are busy.
yeah,
So the way that you're going to get their attention is, hey, I've got a pre-approval letter. I know what the numbers look like.
yeah,
I'm ready to go. I
yeah.
just need to partner with a strong real estate professional. So that's
Yeah.
a great point.
Yeah, 100%. And so, in order to get that pre-approval letter, of course, guys, Jeff is our go-to inside of our community, so definitely reach out to him. I wouldn't bring him on here if he wasn't vetted. He's been tried and true, battle tested, which I absolutely love. But the two pillars that and the two foundations that I tell our members, and I'm sure you can eloquently state it, is having your down payment plan and having your funding, your mortgage, right? And so it goes hand in hand. You want to simultaneously be trying to figure out, well, how much percentage down do I need to come up with the pre-approval letter? You get to an understanding of what your purchasing power is. So say your purchasing power is 300,000 or maybe it's 700,000, right? So if that's your purchasing power based on where you're finding your properties, where you have landed for market analysis, you may need $30,000 or $70,000 to come up with. So that down payment pillar, along with that actual mortgage loan pillar, we want to be finding out what those numbers look like. We want to figure out, well, how are we going to cobble together all of our dollars? We're going to shake the sofa cushions to put together that down payment, and we want to work with someone like Jeff to figure out, well, what's that overall mortgage looking like. So that brings me to our next question, Jeff. Before we dive into, well, no, let's do it. Let's do it. A lot of people think that we need 25% down to start investing in real estate because it's an investment property. Something you taught me a long time ago. Well, no, that's not necessarily the case. And I think it completely changed my life. And I would love for you to share with the community what that is and what it is that you do in business.
Well, and another great point, and it was exactly where I was going in my mind as you were talking about those different points. Is I talk to so many people. Another common thing is they think that they need 20% down, and that's been a huge opportunity for us, for my team, is to get the word out that we can buy in this asset class and only need 10% down. So it's pretty common that I hear, hey, I talked to my guy, the loan officer that I dealt with when I bought my primary residence. I told him I want to go buy an investment property in Florida. They live in Chicago, outside of Florida, whatever the case may be. And that loan officer heard investment property, and that's where they went. So they immediately went to investment property loan. You need 20% down, 25% down, and then never asked the question of, wow, Florida, that sounds like a place you may go visit from time to time, and go stay. Is that the case? If they would have just asked that one question, it could have led them down the avenue of 10% down loan. So I didn't know that I only needed 10% down, or I've been told that I need 20% down, and that's a game changer.
It's a
You
game
know, it
changer.
yeah, it's and for various reasons. One, it could be it means you're able to go out and do another one. Maybe you have enough resources where instead of one, now you can do two, or you're going to go into this deal where you do have the resources, because it's just feasible to be able to save that versus 20, 25% down, or it's going to allow you to keep some cash in your pocket. So you really feel like you can go into this deal and you're not going to be strapped. You know, you really can do the things that are going to be necessary to make this property stand out, to perform at a level that you expect it to. You don't ever want to go into a situation where you're really having to pinch pennies, and you're really having to cut back on the things that would make the property special. And that's what we're been able to open the doors up to for people.
I love that. So for those sitting in the back, let's recap real quick. 10% down. How approachable is that? Absolute game changer. So, my question to you then, for these 10% down loans, since they're not technically investment properties, they're vacation rentals or second homes, for those loans, Jeff, would you share with me what are some creative ways that you've seen your community come up with the down payment for the 10% down that's still allowable? I know inside of the communities I'm a part of, there are some hard money lenders, and you could borrow from Peter to pay. Like there's a variety. You can accept gifts. And what are the rules? Remind us, what are the rules of what can be used for the down payment, and what are some creative ways that you've seen your clients come up with that, if you have any?
Yeah, so the first one, and I did a podcast episode on this on
Ooh.
my podcast, STR Home Financing. So if you want to kind of dive into some of the deeper points of this strategy, uh, there's 10 minutes worth of information there. But just from a high level, creating your own down payment assistant, or you're creating your own down payment bank, is the name of the episode. And really
Mm.
what it is it's leveraging equity on property that you already own. So uh, most commonly that's going to be a HELOC. So a lot of people, they got into the 2.5% interest rate on that first mortgage, sub 3%. And they're like, heck no, I'm not going to do a cash out refinance. I'm not going to touch that mortgage. And I really think the better approach anyway is the HELOC, because you're able to separate that debt that you're going to use for your down payment and closing cost on this short-term rental. And then all the numbers should show that the short-term rental is going to perform at a level to where it's going to repay the HELOC. So it's a way to separate, in a sense, your personal debt from your business debt. Keep that mortgage, that first mortgage over there. You're doing what you had planned on doing with it. And then, let's use this HELOC to fund our down payment and closing cost. And then it's rinse and repeat. So typically those HELOCs are going to be open for 30 years, and you can draw on them for the first 10 years. Um, I'm a big fan of borrowing against a 401k. So did not say cashing out a 401k, not a big fan of taking that big tax hit. But if you can, borrow the down payment and closing cost from the 401k, you're paying yourself back with interest. And again, the property that you acquired is paying that back. You're not having to use your W-2 income to repay that 401k loan. The property is going to perform at a level that it can pay it back. Any funds that are used towards down payment and closing costs have to be seasoned in your bank account for at least 60 days. So I'm not talking about the HELOC. I'm not talking about the 401k money. So if there's an avenue that you'd want to go where you're going to bring outside money in, that money is considered yours after it's seasoned in a bank account for at least 60 days. But yeah, the most common outside the box um, avenues that I typically educate people on are going to be that HELOC, and then the loan from the 401k.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so I got my first property. It's a short term rental. I used the 10% down loan. I'm good to go and I'm ready. I'm like, okay, this is going swimmingly. I see another deal. I would love to invest in that one. What are my options? Can I do another one? Should I look at other lending options? What's the criteria to identify what's my next best move to get door number two? We like the two-door strategy inside of my community. We believe that two doors could radically change your life as long as it's well positioned, well curated doors. How do I get that second door going? What are some options out there for me, Jeff?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are typically not working with a client on a deal. We're usually building a relationship because they do want to build a portfolio of these types of properties. So, a lot of times once we get the pieces of the puzzle in front of us, we're able to tell people, yeah, no problem on the first one. You want to do a second one. This is what it would look like. So we're able to kind of answer that and give people a roadmap before they even get into the first one, which is a nice
Mm.
position. So you kind of know what things look like for the future and you can plan accordingly. But typically, what we're going to do is we're going to exhaust that 10% down second home occupancy loan because it has the lowest barrier for entry when it comes to down payment. It's going to have the lower of the interest rates when it comes to products other than a primary residence. Um, and you can do up to 10 of those in your name. So that's typically not going to be a barrier. Now, debt to income ratio is probably the most common barrier for entry in that product because we can't consider the short term or the projected short term rental income uh, to be used into the debt to income ratio calculation. So you have to be able to show the ability to absorb that payment into your ratios. Now, in your example of the one, let's just say that the one maxes you out. Now, you're up against the debt to income ratio ceiling. How do we stay in that second home occupancy loan without having to go to, let's say, a DSCR loan where you're going to have to put down 20%? So we can use short-term rental income for qualifying after it's appeared on a tax return for a year. So there's potential that you have a you know almost a full year. It doesn't have to be a full year, but the more that income is collected within a calendar year, that stronger that calculation is going to be. But yeah, we can use the short term rental from a tax return after just 1 year if it's under Schedule E.
Okay, so that's good to know. Now, if I'm looking to expand using another loan type like the DSCR, just in case the debt to income, I hit my debt to income ratio. And that occurred for me on property number three because we were scaling, I would say, a little bit rapidly. What would that look like for the DSCR loan, which you have mentioned a little bit earlier? What is that loan? What does it entail? And why should investors have that as one of the keys that they're storing on their keychain as another option to continue to look at how to navigate these choppy waters of getting funding and lenders and all of the things.
Yeah, the DSCR loan is the easiest loan that we use in this space. And so candidates for that are going to be people that are self-employed where they're not considered bankable because of their tax returns. They've got a good CPA that's, including all the write-offs that they possibly can. So on a tax return, for qualifying purposes, they're just not strong. Or it is for the person that's maxed out their debt to income ratio. Because we're not using personal income to qualify, there's no debt to income ratio standard. The majority of the approval for the DSCR loan is going to be that the property shows potential gross income that's going to match the principal, interest, and taxes and insurance payment. So the majority of the approval is going to be based on the property's ability to perform, not you as an individual. So that loan typically is going to be in the name of an LLC, titles in the name of an LLC. So people like from day one that you've got that kind of legal legal risk layering protection with the title being in the LLC. Um, most DSCR loans, including ours, are going to require a personal guarantor. So there is a credit standard that has to be met as far as a minimum credit score. 680 is what it is with us. You have to be able to show 6 months of reserves for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance for just that property. So if you own multiple properties, it's not that you have to have 6 months in reserve for every single one of them. It's just for the proposed property. Um, no mortgage lates in the past 12 months. Um, and then really from there, when we're doing a pre-approval, it's pulling credit um, and a soft pull again. You don't have to do a hard pull for that. Verifying that you can put down 20%. If you're a new investor, which means you haven't owned a cash flow producing property in the past 12 months, for at least 12 months, you can still do a DSCR loan, but you have to put down 25%. So
Mm.
we're going to verify those two things: credit score, no mortgage lates, and then really from there, it's what area are you interested in? What type of property are you looking in? So kind of bedroom count, bathroom count, how many people you're projecting that it's going to be able to facilitate. And then we can use our AirDNA account to let you know if that area is looking favorable to support the ratio that we're looking for, that 1-to-1 ratio. So that's a common question I get is how do I get approved for a DSCR loan if I don't have a property yet? So get that pre-approval in place. You have the letter, you have the estimated payments, you have the estimated cash to close. So you want all those things. And then once you do find a property, you can send us an address and we can run it through AirDNA. So um, that is, to get the green light before you get into contract is, definitely a favorable position to be in because you don't want to go through that entire process and then find out it's not supported. The other things to mention about the DSCR loan is there are a ton of lenders that will tell you that it doesn't report on your credit. And I will tell you, if they are requiring you to be a personal guarantor, they're pulling your credit, which means they have your social security number and date of birth. Uh, there's the potential that that could be reported on credit. So if you've got a lender that's telling you it will not be reported on credit, the next question should be put it in writing. And they're going to say, well, we don't put it in writing. And if that's the case, then there's that potential it could be reported on personal credit.
Okay. Okay. So that's good. And are you saying that North Point does or does not report it on your credit?
Yes, yes, yeah, we do report it on credit.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that is a point of contention I think that we had come across where since it's a business purpose loan and it's taking into consideration the revenue potential of the property more so than your own W2 income. I think that's where the disconnect is a little bit, Jeff. Could you expound on that a little bit more? So although to acquire the DSCR loan, you're looking more at the asset, the property, and its performance, because you mentioned AirDNA, which is a tool that we use all the time. We just had a podcast interview with Jamie Lane, the head of data for AirDNA. So we're looking at the asset, the revenue of the asset, but not my own personal revenue per se. But I have a personal guarantee for the most part, and it will appear on my debt when it comes to evaluating my debt to income. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct, and that's a another common piece that people aren't fully educated on by
Yeah,
DSCR lenders is that you think that because that loan is in your LLC that
yeah,
it's excluded from your personal debt to income ratio, which if you're a personal guarantor, ultimately you're personally responsible
yeah.
for the repayment of that loan. So, you know, what you don't want to get caught up in is, okay, well, I'm doing a DSCR loan. It's going to be excluded from my personal debt. And then you go to do a conventional loan where they're declarations that you have to make. So there are things like, have you had a bankruptcy in the past 7 years? Are you currently involved in a lawsuit? Are you personally obligated on any debt that doesn't show up on the credit report? You have to mark yes on that, or you're committing mortgage fraud.
Yeah.
And then at that point, they're going to say, well, we didn't see anything on the credit report. Um, but you mark that you are personal guarantor on a loan. We're going to need to see, what that loan looks like, what your personal obligation is, and then it's included. You're not going to get many DSCR lenders that are going to educate you to that. In fact, that has been a hot topic for me lately because of all the things that I see on social media with DSCR lenders
Hmm.
um, advertising, to the point where I did a couple, if not a few episodes on it, just because it fired me up so much that DSCR lenders operate that way. The other thing that you need to know about DSCR lenders is a lot of them are brokers. So they're going to tell you, we can go
Mm.
shop your deal. That is not necessarily a good thing, because with these different entities that they're going and shopping at, they're not dealing with them on a regular basis typically. So they're not as familiar with what is allowed, how they operate, how they lock their loans. And there's so many stories that I hear out there of, well, I got my appraisal back and then they told me that, I'm going to have to put 5% down more and my rate was going to be a percent higher. And it's just so common out there because they don't know what the target is, because it's constantly moving with these different investors. So I love the fact that, and then on top of that, they are not delegated in their process. So they're sending the file out to this investor to have them review it, to underwrite it, to close it, to fund it. One of the big reasons why I offer DSCR loan is because we are delegated with our investors. So other than appraisal and title, we keep control of that entire process when it comes to um, processing the loan, underwriting the loan, closing the loan, funding the loan. And we've been dealing with the same investor for the past 3 years. So we know what they want. We know how they operate. We know that they will let us use Air DNA data to prove the ratios. So I may sound fired up right now, but I just don't like it when people operate in the shadows and they don't fully educate people, and people don't find out until it's too late that there's an issue or there's a problem or things change. um, my business model has been pretty simple over the past 16 years. It's do the right thing, and you never have to worry about where your business will come from.
Oh, let that breathe for a second, guys. Do the right thing, and you will never have to worry where your business comes from. And this is so timely, especially for those of us who have launched a property recently, where we're seeing the ups and downs of short-term rentals, right? But as long as we do the right thing for our guests and for our business, then you know what? The rest is up to, our higher power, whatever you may believe in. That's how I
Yeah.
feel as well. So thank you for sharing that. All right, so Jeff, we're gonna wrap, my friend. Guys, please, please, please tune into Jeff. He is a wealth of information. We're gonna link your podcast in the show notes as well, Jeff, because we know just how powerful and how things are always ever evolving. And so we're gonna wrap, and would love to go into our rapid fire questions. Question number one, Jeff, can you share a moment you felt completely burnt out and how you overcame it, my friend?
Oh wow. So I've been in the mortgage business for 16 years, and I got in the year of the crash. So
Oh, I didn't think of that.
yeah, yeah. So This past year has been really tough with just the
Mhm.
changes in regulations and, rates going up. Um, and yeah, I've found myself down on the mat here, over this past 6 to 9 months, just because of the uncertainty in the economy, and just the different things going on in the United States that affect my business and the people that I do business with. And just recently came to this revelation that, hey, we're gonna get knocked down sometimes, and it's okay to sit there for a minute while you regroup.
Mm.
Sitting and waiting and listening is okay. If you've had your bell rung and you're down on the ground, you probably shouldn't get up. Your head's going to be spinning. So I'm one of those types of people that, hey, when I get knocked down, I want to get right back up.
Yeah.
And maybe it's that I'm getting a little older, a little wiser, but I'm just finding that it's okay to regroup and make sure that you're healthy before you try to get up off the mat.
Love that. Love that. What's a book or resource that completely changed your perspective on life or on work?
Well, other than the Bible,
Yeah.
because that's definitely my main source,
Yeah.
would be Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm.
Just this idea of using other people's money, buying assets that are cash flow producing, really changed my perspective because I didn't have that modeled, growing up. So, I think there are things that we come across that kind of change the way that we think about things. And Rich Dad Poor Dad was definitely uh, one of those game changers for me.
Love that. And last question for our final three is what's the craziest real estate story that you've ever heard or experienced?
Oh goodness, maybe my own. I'll just go with my own.
Yeah.
We close on our first short-term rental lakefront property in the Ozarks, north central Arkansas, and dealing with things remotely brings on a new challenge. In this case, really had to lean on our realtor to make sure that things were done. As far as things that were agreed on between us and the seller. So close, go out to the property excited, and just all these things had not been done
Oh my gosh.
that they said they were going to get done. So, super super frustrated. I'm walking around the property thinking, what have we done? There's all these drainage issues. They had never put a safe route to the lake. Um, so I guess I share that just to say that uh, i- it's okay. There are going to be challenges because ultimately what we ended up with was just this beautiful, amazing property.
Uh,
And as we partnered with the right people that brought the right solutions, which wasn't the first person that I talked to, probably the second or third person, it really brought everything together. And so, it was a journey. And I really think that if this were easy, everyone would be doing it. And I really think the people that can push through are going to be the ones that really benefit from just how lucrative that this asset class can be. So there's my own story.
oh my goodness. That's a good one. That's a good one and very appropriate for our audience today. So that's a wrap, my friend. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being just an awesome member of our community, always looking for ways to figure out how to get our members into a property. So thank you for all that you've done and all that you continue to do. Would you please share with us one more time how to best connect with you, how to best get in touch, how to best listen to your wisdom on your podcast? Let us know, and we'll also include all of it in the show notes.
Yeah, well, as usual, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be a part of your community. Just such amazing people that I've connected with as part of that. But yeah, Apple or Spotify, strhomefinancing.com. Those are, I'm sorry, STR Home Financing. Those are micro podcasts. So there's 10 minutes or less typically, bite-sized information, move on to the next thing. My website is the best way to connect with me, strhomefinancing.com. So just put together some, again, short videos to educate people, and really put those videos together because we were having these 45-minute phone calls where people were just, I was regurgitating the same information over and over again. And it was like, are you still there? And so I put those videos together where people can watch those prior to the phone call, and then schedule a call where we can just hear about, the dreams and aspirations, touch on any initial questions, and then send you on to the next steps, which takes about 15 minutes. So yeah, best way to connect is that website.
Awesome. Awesome. And we'll link those in the show notes, like I said. So thank you guys again for tuning in to this amazing episode of the Luxury Rental Doctor Show. It was such a pleasure having Jeff with us, sharing all of the invaluable insights, the scoop, dispelling some myths around the DSCR loans, and really transforming how we see our investing strategy and how we can make this happen. So, remember, my dear friends, investing in luxury, short and midterm rentals isn't just about the income, it's about creating a life you do not need a vacation from. Be sure to join us next time and let's continue to explore the power of real estate investing. Until then, Dr. Rachel here, wishing you smart investments and great success. Goodbye for now.